The planet Zaire was known across many worlds. Its people were tall, strong, and proud. They trained for war from the moment they could walk. Strength was everything in Zayari culture. Weakness was shameful. King Torn ruled over the Zayari with power and wisdom. He had led many battles and won every single one. His soldiers followed him without question. But even the great king had one problem. His only daughter, Mira was unlike other Zayari. She was small and quiet. Her body was weak. She could not lift the heavy swords of her people. She did not shout in anger or train in the arenas. She liked silence and reading. Her skin bruised easily, and her voice trembled when she spoke. Many whispered that she brought shame to the royal bloodline. King Torn tried everything. He gave her the best trainers, the finest doctors, and even the oldest warrior masters. But nothing changed her. She stayed silent. She stayed weak. Finally, the king made a decision. He called Mira to the royal hall. She walked in slowly, her eyes on the floor. The hall was filled with soldiers. At the center stood the king, his arms crossed, his face stern. "You are my daughter," he said loudly, "but you are not one of us." Mira raised her eyes. She did not cry. She did not speak. "I cannot keep you here. You will be sent away. Maybe the humans will make something of you." Gasps filled the hall. Humans were seen as a lesser race by most Zayari. Clever, yes, but not warriors. King Torn continued. "There's a human named Darren. He lives on a far-off colony called Valine. He once fought beside our people in the Old War. He is not one of us, but he has honor. I will give you to him. You are no longer a princess. You are his responsibility now." Mira said nothing. She only bowed her head. The shuttle to planet Valine was cold and empty. Mira sat alone, looking out at the stars. Her heart felt heavy, but her face was calm. She had always known she did not belong among her people. She had always felt like a shadow in her father's palace when the ship landed. The door opened to a world of snow-covered mountains and thick green forests. The air was cold and clean. A man stood at the edge of the landing site, arms folded. He was tall, with rough clothes and a strong jaw. His hair was dark, and his eyes sharp like a hunter's. He said nothing as she walked toward him. "You're Mira?" he asked. She nodded. "I'm Darren." She nodded again. He sighed and turned. "Follow me." They walked through thick woods and up a rocky path. Mira stumbled more than once, but Darren didn't look back. He didn't offer help. She had to keep up on her own. After an hour, they reached a small wooden cabin built into the side of a hill. Smoke rose from the chimney. Few tools were scattered near the door. It looked simple, but strong. "This is home," Darren said. "I live alone. You don't talk much, huh?" Mira looked at him, then looked down again. Darren grunted. "Fine by me." He opened the door and stepped inside. Mira followed. Inside, the cabin was warm. A fire crackled in a stone fireplace. The furniture was simple: wooden chairs, a table, a bed in the corner. There were weapons on the walls, old photos, a small cooking area. "You'll sleep there," Darren said, pointing to a folded blanket in the corner. "Don't expect anything fancy." Mira sat on the floor, slowly wrapping the blanket around herself. Darren watched her for a moment. Then he went to the fire and dropped the pieces of meat into a pan. "I didn't ask for this," he said finally. "Your father sent me a message 2 days ago. Said he was sending his daughter. Said you were weak. Useless." Mira didn't move. "I don't believe in useless," Darren said. "But I also don't believe in comfort. Life here is hard, cold, wild. You want to survive. You work. You train. You learn. I won't carry you." Mira looked at him for the first time. Her voice was soft. "Why did you say yes?" Darren was silent for a moment. Then he said, "Because once, someone didn't give up on me." He handed her a plate. The food was plain, but warm. "Pete, you'll need your strength. We start early." "Start what?" she asked. "Training." The next morning, Mira woke to the sound of a wooden stick hitting the ground. Darren stood outside, holding to long branches. "Come out," he said. Mira stepped outside into the cold air. Her hand shook slightly. But she didn't complain. He tossed her one of the sticks. "Let's see what you can do." Mira held the stick awkwardly. She had never fought with any weapon, not even during her father's training. Darren circled her. Slowly, feet apart, knees bent, she copied him. "Now swing." She swung, slow, unsure. Again, harder. She swung again. Darren didn't smile. He didn't praise. He just said, "Again." They trained until her arms hurt and her legs shook. Later, she sat on the floor inside, wrapping her bruised hands. Darren handed her a cup of hot tea. "Pain means you're learning," he said. She looked at him, tired but not angry. For the first time, she nodded. That night, as the fire crackled, Mira sat silently, watching the flames. She was no longer in a palace. She had no guards, no titles, and no soft bed. But something in her chest felt clearer. Darren sat across the room, sharpening a knife. "Tomorrow," he said, "we go hunting. You'll carry your own pack. You'll learn the land." Mira didn't speak, but deep inside, she felt a small flame light up. Maybe she had been weak once. Maybe she had been quiet, forgotten. But now, she had a new path, and it had only just begun. The sun rose slowly over the snow-covered hills of planet Valine. Cold wind swept through the tall trees. Ice covered the ground, and small birds flew across the sky. It was a quiet world. Wild and untouched. Inside the small wooden cabin, Mira opened her eyes. Her arms still hurt from the training yesterday. Her hands were bruised, but she did not complain. She sat up, folded her blanket, and stepped outside. Darren was already outside, wearing a thick coat made from animal hide. He stood near a tree, sharpening a long metal spear. He looked up when he saw Mira. "You're late," he said. "It's still dark," she replied quietly. "No such thing as early or late here. Time follows you, not the other way around." Mira didn't understand what he meant, but she didn't ask. She just stood there, waiting. Darren handed her a heavy pack. "Put this on. You carry it today." Mira took the pack. It was rough and smelled like old leather. She put it on her back and almost fell from the weight, but she held herself up. They walked into the forest. The snow was deep, and the path was uneven. Mira's boots sank into the soft ground. The cold air stung her face. Darren moved fast, like someone who had done this all his life. Mira tried to keep up, but her legs were already tired. After a while, she slipped on the ice and fell. Darren turned around. "Get up." Mira looked at him, breathing hard. "It's too heavy," she said. "Then become stronger." She got up, slowly. She didn't argue. She didn't ask for help. They continued walking. After 2 hours, they reached a frozen lake. Trees surrounded the area, and small animal tracks were visible in the snow. "This is where we hunt today," Darren said. He pulled a rope from his belt and tied it between two trees. "You wait here. You watch, you learn. Don't move unless I tell you." Mira stood behind the tree, watching carefully. Her breath came out in small clouds. Darren moved. Like a shadow, he crouched near the edge of the lake, placing small traps in the snow. He made no sound. Not even the birds noticed him. Mira watched everything. How he moved, how he listened, how he waited. Then, suddenly, a creature came out from the trees. It was small, with thick fur and sharp claws. It sniffed the air and walked toward one of the traps. Darren did not move. The creature stepped onto the trap. With a soft click, it was caught. The creature let out a small cry. Darren walked over and ended its pain quickly and cleanly. Mira did not look away. He returned to her. "You see what I did?" She nodded. "Next time, you try." On the way back, they walked slower. Mira's legs were shaking. The pack felt even heavier now, filled with meat and supplies. Her fingers were red from the cold. She tripped again. Darren stopped and looked back. "Tired?" She nodded. "You want me to carry it?" She looked at him, thinking he was serious. He raised an eyebrow. "If I do it for you now, you'll never learn." Mira understood. She stood up again. Her legs burned, but she did not stop. When they reached the cabin, she dropped the pack and fell to her knees. Her arms were sore. Her clothes were wet from snow. Her cheeks were pale. Darren threw a towel to her. Dry off, then start the fire. Mira blinked. Now, yes, fire comes before food. Fire comes before sleep. She looked at the cold fireplace. She had never made a fire before, but she didn't complain. She just got to work. The first time she tried, the firewood didn't catch. Her fingers slipped. The stones sparked. But nothing happened. She tried again, and again. Her arms hurt. Her body was cold. But she didn't stop. After a long time, a small flame appeared. It danced in the cold air. She fed it slowly, carefully, until it became stronger. Darren nodded. Good. He placed the meat on the fire and handed her a cup of hot water. You did well today, he said. Mira didn't smile, but her eyes showed something new, a small light, a quiet strength. That night, the wind howled outside. Snow fell hard against the windows. The whole mountain seemed to shake with the storm. Mira sat near the fire, wrapped in a blanket. She looked at her hands. The skin was rough. The bruises had darkened, but she felt proud. Darren sat nearby, fixing a broken trap. You know, he said, your people think you're weak. I know, Mira said. But you're not. She looked at him, surprised. Most people cry when life gets hard, Darren said. Most people run away. You didn't. You're still here. That means something. Mira said nothing, but she listened carefully. Tomorrow, he said, you'll learn how to climb the ridge and maybe fight with sticks again. Mira nodded. She didn't feel ready, but she would try. In the middle of the night, a loud sound woke her up. She rushed outside. A wild animal, tall, with long teeth and red eyes, stood near the edge of the trees. It had smelled the meat. Darren grabbed his spear. Mira, stay back. But she didn't move. She looked around and saw a sharp stick leaning against the wall. Her hands reached for it. The creature growled and took a step forward. Darren threw the spear and missed. The animal charged. Mira didn't think. She stepped in front of the door and shouted. The sound was not loud, but it was enough. The creature stopped. Confused, that second was enough for Darren to grab another weapon. With one clean move, he struck the beast down. It fell into the snow. Mira stood frozen. Darren turned to her. You didn't run. I was afraid, she said. But you didn't run. Later, inside the cabin, Mira sat near the fire again. Her hands shook slightly. She wasn't used to danger. She wasn't used to fear. But she had stood her ground. Darren handed her a warm drink. You're learning, he said. Mira looked into the fire. The flames danced gently, like her heart. Maybe she wasn't weak. Maybe she was just beginning. Snow had melted from the lower hills of Planet Valine. Green grass now grew in small patches near the cabin. Cold wind still blew from the mountains. But the sky was clear and blue. Birds returned to the trees, singing their songs again. Mira stood outside, facing Darren. He held to wooden sticks, each the length of an arm. He threw one toward her. She caught it with both hands. You've learned to walk on ice. You've made fire. You survived storms and wild beasts, Darren said. Now it's time to fight. Mira looked at the stick. It felt light, but strong. The wood was smooth, shaped like a blade. I've never fought, she said softly. You've never had to. Darren answered, but that changes now. He stepped forward and pointed his stick at her chest. Your people think strength is only in the body, he continued. They're wrong. Strength is also here. He tapped his head, and here, he tapped his heart. Mira gripped her stick tighter. Ready? He asked. She nodded. He moved fast. His stick swung gently but aimed straight for her side. Mira raised her stick and blocked it just barely. Good, again. They trained until the sun was high in the sky, every day. Darren taught her something new. One day he taught her how to swing without wasting energy. Another day, he showed her how to move her feet to stay balanced. Mira listened closely, trying her best to copy him. She fell many times. Her arms ached from blocking his attacks. Her legs hurt from standing too long. But she never gave up. She woke early, trained hard, and stayed silent. Only her eyes spoke, and they burned with quiet focus. One evening, after many days of training, Darren said, "Now we fight properly. No holding back." He stepped into the open area outside the cabin and held his stick like a real sword. Mira stood across from him, breathing slowly. He charged first. Their sticks clashed. Mira moved fast, dodging and blocking. She had learned where to stand, how to turn, and when to strike. She missed many times, but one strike landed lightly on Darren's shoulder. He stepped back, surprised. Mira froze, afraid she had done something wrong. Then Darren smiled. "That was real," he said. "You've earned your first win." Mira didn't smile, but inside, her heart felt warm. It was her first victory. Not a gift, not luck. She had worked for it. That same day, a visitor came. Small ship landed near the forest edge. Dust flew into the air. Mira and Darren stood side by side, watching. A short woman stepped out. She wore a thick coat and carried a large toolbox. "Laura," Darren said. "Haven't seen you in 2 years." "You never call," Laura replied with a grin. "So I thought I'd check if you're still alive." She looked at Mira. "This the girl?" "Yes." Laura walked up to Mira and held out her hand. Mira shook it, unsure. "She's stronger than she looks," Darren said. Laura raised an eyebrow. "Really?" Mira nodded. Double quotes. "Well then," Laura said, smiling, "maybe you're the reason this old man started cleaning his place again." Darren rolled his eyes. "She's learning. That's what matters." Laura stayed the night. She shared stories of nearby colonies, fixed some old machines, and cooked spicy food that made Mira cough. Later, when Mira helped Laura carry some tools, Laura whispered, "He's proud of you, you know." Mira looked surprised. "He never says it," Laura continued, "but I can see it in his eyes." Mira said nothing, but her grip on the toolbox tightened. The next morning, Laura prepared to leave. Before stepping into her ship, she turned to Mira. "You've changed," Laura said. "Your eyes aren't afraid anymore." "I'm still learning," Mira replied. Laura smiled. "Keep learning. One day, others will learn from you." And with that, she flew away. Mira stood watching the sky until the ship disappeared. The next few days were harder. Darren increased the training. He gave Mira 2 sticks and told her to fight with both hands. At first, she was clumsy. Her strikes were weak. She dropped her sticks often. But every time she failed, she tried again. She trained in rain, in wind, even at night. Darren once said, "If you want to be strong, fight when you're tired." So she did. She trained even when her arms felt heavy and her feet were numb. And slowly, the sticks stopped feeling like sticks. They started to feel like part of her hands. One morning, Darren walked into the forest and returned with a long box. He placed it in front of Mira. "What is it?" she asked. "Open it." She opened the box slowly. Inside was a real training blade, light metal, not sharp, but shaped like a warrior's sword. It had a leather grip and her name carved on the side. Mira stared at it. "This is yours," Darren said. "You've earned it." She picked it up. It felt heavy, but right now, he said, "Show me what you've learned." They fought in the clearing. Mira moved like wind through trees. She blocked, dodged, and struck with speed. Her blade clashed against Darren's stick again and again. For the first time, Darren stepped back. Mira kept moving. She didn't speak. She didn't think. She simply fought. When they stopped, both were breathing hard. Darren looked at her. "You're not weak anymore." Mira looked at her hands. They were rough, scarred, strong. "No," she said quietly. "I'm not." The forest was quiet that morning. A soft mist covered the trees, and birds flew low between the branches. Mira stood at the edge of the ridge, holding her blade close to her side. She had been up since dawn, training by herself. Her movements were sharper now, her balance steady. The weak girl from the palace was long gone. Darren watched from a distance, arms crossed. "She learns fast," he said to himself. Suddenly, a loud sound broke the silence. The birds flew away in fear. A strange humming came from above. Mira looked up. A ship was flying over the trees. It was dark gray, marked with the symbol of the Zayari. a sharp silver claw wrapped around a star. Darren's face grew serious. That's not good. The ship hovered for a moment, then slowly landed in a wide field near the forest. The ground shook softly as its engines powered down. Mira walked to Darren's side. Who is it? She asked. Darren didn't answer right away. Then he said, his name is Vec, one of your father's war commanders. Mira's fingers tightened around her blade. Why is he here? We'll find out. The ship's door opened with a hiss. A tall figure stepped out. His armor was black and silver. His face was sharp, his eyes cold. He walked with pride, as if the ground itself moved for him. Darren, he said with a slight smile. Still alive, Vec, Darren replied. Didn't expect to see you on this quiet world. Vec's eyes moved to Mira. So, he said slowly, this is the little shadow the king threw away. Mira stood straight, not showing fear. Vec walked around her like a hunter watching prey. I heard stories, he said, that the weak daughter of King Torn is training with a human, that she holds a blade now. He laughed. I had to see it with my own eyes. She's not the same girl anymore, Darren said. She's still Zayari. Vec replied, that blood doesn't change. He turned to Mira. Show me what you've learned. Mira stepped forward. Now, yes, fight something real. He lifted his arm. A small metal drone flew out of his ship. It hovered above the field, then shaped itself into a combat unit, long arms, energy blades. Fast wings, beat it, Vec said, and I'll believe you've changed. Darren stepped forward. That thing is military grade. She's not ready. Mira raised her hand. I'll fight. Darren looked at her. She nodded once. Let her, she said. Let me prove myself. The drone circled above her, its sensors locked onto Mira. Its blades hissed. Mira stood still, waiting. Then, it attacked. It came fast. Slashing from the left, Mira rolled under the strike and turned quickly. She swung her blade, hitting its side. Sparks flew. The drone flew up again and shot toward her from behind. Mira ducked, then jumped to the side. Her heart was racing. She had never fought a machine like this. It was faster than any beast, smarter than any wild creature. But she remembered. Darren's lessons: don't panic, don't rush. Use your mind. Watch its rhythm. She waited again, breathing slowly. The drone came down once more, aiming straight for her chest. At the last moment, Mira dropped low and rolled forward. As she passed under it, she stabbed upward. Her blade struck a joint in its body. The drone sparked, lost balance, and crashed into the ground. Mira jumped back, ready for more. But the drone didn't move. It was finished. Vec walked over, looking at the broken machine. He didn't smile. She got lucky, he said. No, Darren replied. She got strong. Vec looked at Mira. You surprised me, but don't think this changes anything. He turned toward his ship. The king will hear of this. He'll know his daughter hasn't failed completely. He stepped inside, and the ship lifted into the sky, leaving dust and silence behind. Later, as the sun set behind the trees, Mira sat near the fire, wrapping a cloth around a scratch on her arm. Darren handed her a bowl of stew. You did well, he said. It wasn't perfect, she replied. No fight ever is. She looked into the flames. Why did he come? She asked. Maybe to scare you, Darren said. Maybe to test you? Or maybe your father sent him? Mira was quiet. Do you think he still cares? She asked. Darren thought for a moment. I don't know, but you're not doing this for him anymore. Mira looked at her hands. They were rough and bruised, but strong. No, she said. I'm not. The next day, Mira trained even harder. She climbed cliffs with bare hands. She ran through thick forest paths. She sparred with Darren until sweat poured from her skin. She didn't stop, even when her body begged for rest. That night, she stood on the same ridge and looked at the stars. She thought about her people, her father, the palace she once lived in, and she thought about the battles she had won. It wasn't just about the drone. It wasn't just about Vek. It was about herself. She had faced fear, and she had stood tall. The forest had changed. The snow was almost gone, and the ground was soft with fresh green grass. Flowers began to bloom in the open spaces between the trees. The cold winds of Valine had calmed, and the air felt alive. So had Mira. Each morning, she rose before the sun. She washed in the cold stream, stretched her limbs, and trained with her blade. Her movements were fast and smooth now. Her feet knew where to step. Her hands no longer shook. Darren watched her silently from a distance. He didn't give praise often, but every now and then. He gave her a short nod. That was enough. Mira was no longer the quiet girl who had come from the stars. She had learned to survive, to fight, and to lead. But her journey was not finished yet. One afternoon, Darren pointed toward the hills. "There's a creature out there," he said. "Big, fast, and smart. It's been bothering nearby colonies." Mira looked up. "What kind of creature?" "Something new. No one has seen it closely. But it steals food, breaks machines, and scares the locals. We'll track it." "Will we kill it?" Mira asked. "Only if we must. This mission is not just about fighting. It's about learning the land." "Listening to the world around you?" Mira nodded. "I'm ready." They packed supplies and climbed into the hills. For hours, they followed broken branches, claw marks on tree trunks, and deep footprints in the soft dirt. As the sun began to set, they found signs of movement. A few machines had been destroyed, their metal bent and wires pulled out. Mira crouched beside one. "This wasn't done by accident," she said. "No," Darren agreed. "It's smart. It knows how to scare people." They followed the trail into a rocky cave. Inside, it was dark and cold. Mira held a small light, and Darren kept his hand on his blade. Suddenly, a loud growl echoed through the cave. From the shadows, a tall beast stepped forward. It had for arms long claws and glowing eyes. Its skin was thick like armor, and it moved like a hunter. Mira stepped in front of Darren. "I'll try," she said. "Be careful," he warned. Mira moved forward slowly. The creature growled, but didn't attack. She didn't raise her blade. She watched its eyes, its breathing, its body. It wasn't attacking yet. It was guarding something. She looked behind it and saw the smaller creatures hiding in the corner. "They're not alone," Mira whispered. "It's protecting its young." Darren lowered his blade. "Then we leave it in peace?" Mira nodded. They backed out of the cave slowly. The creature watched them, but did not follow. Outside, under the stars, Mira sat on a rock. "You didn't strike," Darren said. "That was the right choice." "I thought I had to fight everything," she replied. "Fighting isn't always strength. Knowing when not to fight is strength too." Mira looked up at the stars. "I want to help more people." "You will." Word spread across nearby colonies about a Zayari girl living in the wild with a human. People began visiting, quietly, curiously. Some came with small machines that needed fixing. Some brought broken weapons. Others just wanted to see the girl who had stood up to a Zayari. "Commander." Mira helped them all. She fixed machines using tools Laura had left behind. She taught children how to start fires and build shelters. She trained a few brave ones with wooden sticks. Just like Darren had trained her. One young boy fell during a sparring lesson. Mira helped him up gently. "You're not weak for falling," she said. "You're strong if you get up again." The boy smiled. Darren watched from the doorway of the cabin. "She's becoming a leader," he said to himself. One evening, Mira stood on the same ridge where she had once faced the drone. She closed her eyes and breathed in the fresh air. The world was quiet. Her body was stronger now. Her hands knew how to fight, how to work, how to protect. But her heart also knew how to feel, how to wait, how to help. She was not just a warrior. She was more than that. A week later, a message arrived from the sky. A small flying drone landed outside the cabin. It projected a light in the air. A voice spoke from it, deep, cold, familiar. It was King Torin. "Mira, I've heard of your progress. I've heard you face Commander Vec. I have decided to see the truth for myself. I will arrive soon." The message ended. Mira stood still. Her heart beat faster. She hadn't heard her father's voice in months. The last time she had seen him, he had called her weak and sent her away. Darren stepped beside her. "You don't need to prove anything," he said. "I know, Mira said. But I'm ready if he wants to see. That night, Mira sat by the fire, polishing her blade. She remembered her first days on this world. The snow, the silence, the stumbles, the pain. She remembered carrying the heavy pack, building the first fire, blocking Darren's stick with shaking hands. She remembered how she stood between a beast and her home. Now, she was strong, not because of blood, not because of a name, but because she had chosen her path, and she had walked it. The sky above planet Valine was clear and calm. The trees stood still, as if waiting. The animals hid in silence. Even the wind held its breath. Mira stood in front of the cabin, her blade strapped to her back, her eyes on the sky. He's coming. Today, she said. Darren nodded. Are you ready? I've been ready for a long time. Darren didn't speak. He looked at her quietly. She was no longer the quiet girl who had arrived from the stars. Her shoulders were straight, her eyes steady, her hands strong. They waited. Then it came. A large ship appeared above the trees, black and silver, glowing with royal marks. It moved slowly, with power, and landed in the open field near the forest. The door opened. A group of Zayari guards stepped out in perfect lines. Their armor shined. Their faces were serious. Behind them came a tall figure in deep red robes and golden armor, King Torin. He looked older than Mira remembered. His face was calm, but his eyes were sharp. He walked with slow, heavy steps, like a man used to giving orders. He stopped when he saw Mira. You've changed, he said. I had to, she replied. He looked at Darren. And you? I expected nothing from you. Yet here she stands. Darren said nothing. He stepped back and let Mira speak for herself. Torin looked around. The cabin, the tools, the training grounds, the open field. This place is not royal, he said. Yet you grew here. I didn't need gold or servants, Mira said. I needed a chance. He looked at her again. I sent you here to be forgotten, he said. I thought you would break. I almost did, Mira said. But breaking is how I became strong. The king raised an eyebrow. Words are easy. Show me what you've become. Mira nodded. She stepped into the clearing and drew her blade. One of the guards stepped forward, but Torin held up a hand. No, he said. I will test her myself. The guards were shocked. Even Darren stepped forward. She's not your soldier, he said. You don't need to fight her. This is not for power, the king replied. This is for truth. He pulled a long silver blade from his back. The metal glowed faintly. Mira took her stance. The king moved first fast, strong, with years of battle behind every step. But Mira didn't panic. She blocked his strike. Stepped back. Waited. He struck again. She dodged, then countered. The two blades clashed. Metal rang through the trees. The guards watched in silence. Darren stood at the edge of the field. Eyes focused. Mira was not winning, but she was not losing. Either. She moved with skill, not fear. She fought not for pride but for herself. The king struck harder now, testing her fully. Mira's arms shook from the force. Her legs slid in the dirt. But she stood her ground. And then, when he raised his sword high, she stepped in and locked her blade under his. The two froze. He looked at her, breathing hard. Then he stepped back and lowered his weapon. It is enough, he said. Mira lowered hers too. The king looked at his daughter with a new expression, one that Mira had never seen before. Respect. You were always quiet, he said. But now, your silence has power. Mira didn't reply. She only stood. Tall. You've become something greater than I imagined, he said. I became myself, she replied. Torin turned to Darren. You've done what my best trainers could not. Darren shook his head. She did it on her own. I just gave her a place to grow. The king looked at Mira once more. You can return with me. Take your place in the royal line. Mira was quiet for a moment. Then she shook her head. I don't belong in the palace, not anymore. Why? He asked. Because I've found my path. I want to train others like me. The lost, the weak, those who were told they were nothing. The king didn't argue. He simply nodded. You are no longer the girl I gave away, he said. You are something more." He turned to his guards. "We return home." The guards obeyed, stepping back into the ship. Before leaving, the king gave Mira one last look. "I hope we meet again on better terms." Then he entered the ship, and it rose into the sky and disappeared. The forest was quiet again. Mira stood still, thinking. Darren walked to her side. "You did well. I didn't win," she said. "You didn't have to. You showed him who you are. That was enough." She looked at her blade. "I never thought he would respect me. Sometimes you have to stop asking for respect and start earning it." Mira nodded. That night, Mira sat by the fire, writing in a small notebook. Darren fixed an old weapon nearby. "You're writing again?" he asked. "I'm planning," Mira said. "I want to build a small camp, a training place. For who? For those who were left behind, just like I was." Darren smiled slightly. "Then you need help." "I know," Mira said, "and I hope you'll stay." He nodded once. "I'm not going anywhere." The sun rose slowly over planet Valine, painting the sky with colors of gold and pink. The air was fresh, filled with the scent of pine and wildflowers. The forest was alive with the songs of birds and the rustling of small animals. Mira stood outside the cabin, watching the new day begin. Round her, small groups of people moved quietly, some lifting logs, others sharpening sticks or practicing basic moves. The camp was growing. It was not a palace. It was not a royal court, but it was something far more important, a place of hope. For months, Mira had worked hard to build this training camp. Word had spread across nearby colonies and planets about the girl who had been sent away, the girl who had become a warrior. Now, others came, those who had been forgotten, those who had been told they were too weak, those who had lost everything, but still wanted to fight for their future. Mira welcomed them all. She taught them not just how to fight, but how to believe in themselves. One morning, a small group gathered around Mira. A young woman stepped forward. "My name is Nira," she said quietly. "I was told I would never be strong, but I want to learn." Mira smiled softly. "You're not alone," she said. "We all start somewhere." Nira listened carefully as Mira showed her how to hold a stick, how to move her feet, and how to keep her balance. The young woman tried again and again, falling sometimes, but always getting back up. Mira watched with pride. This was the path she had chosen to help others find their strength. Just like she had. Days turned into weeks. The camp grew. People shared stories, laughter, and struggles. They trained together under the watchful eyes of Mira and Darren, and slowly they changed. The weak became strong. The fearful became brave. The lost found purpose. One evening, as the sun set behind the mountains, Mira stood on the ridge with Darren. She looked out over the camp, the people moving like shadows in the fading light. "I never imagined this," she said softly. Darren smiled. "Neither did I, but you made it happen." Mira nodded. "Do you miss the palace?" Darren asked. "No," she said firmly. "I don't belong there." "Then you belong here." She looked at him. "I want to keep building this place, to help more people, to teach them to fight not just with blades, but with courage and hope." Darren placed a hand on her shoulder. "You already are." The next morning, a new ship landed near the camp. This time, it was not a royal ship. It belonged to a group of explorers from a distant planet. They came with gifts, new tools, fresh food, and stories of faraway worlds. They had heard of Mira's camp and wanted to help. Mira welcomed them. She knew this was only the beginning. As the days passed, Mira grew stronger, not just in body, but in spirit. Her blade was sharp, but her mind was sharper. She knew the road ahead would be hard. There would be battles. There would be challenges. But she was ready. One evening, Mira gathered everyone around the fire. She spoke clearly, with quiet strength. "We have all been told we are weak." She looked at each face. "But here, we are warriors, not because of blood or birth, but because we choose to fight for ourselves and each other." The crowd nodded, eyes bright. "We will stand together. We will protect those who cannot protect themselves. We will build a future where no one is left behind." Cheers rose into the night sky. Mira looked at the stars, thinking. about her journey. From the weak princess sent away, to the fierce warrior who stood against the king's commander, to the leader who built a new home for the lost, she smiled. Her story was not just hers alone. It was the story of everyone who believed they could be more. A story of hope, a story of strength, a story of a new dawn. And so, on planet Valine, under the endless sky, a new chapter began. Not just for Mira, but for all who dared to stand and fight.